So my journey, I would hope, is one of resilience, of leadership, and hopefully making change. And I always feel a little bit awkward saying that I'm a leader because I kind of fell into it rather than making the choice myself a little bit. But at some point, I think you have to, if you want change to happen, then you actually have to step forward and do it. You can't wait for everyone else to do the work that you should be doing. So I was born in Townsville in tropical North Queensland, and dance was always part of my life from a very, very young age. So I think I always joke saying my mum put me into dance because it was going to save me, because I had 3 older brothers who liked watching sport all day, every day on the weekend. And to get attention, I would go and dance in front of the TV. And Mum thought that that wasn't a very safe option for me, so she enrolled me in dance class, and it became who I was, like from a very young age. And I was quite a Stedford queen. I don't admit that outside of this room, but I absolutely loved dancing on stage, and I went to every Stedford you could imagine in North Queensland, and that was who I was. That's what defined me. And then I went to Brisbane, and I had the fortune of going to university there and studying dance. And again, I was very, very lucky that I auditioned for a lady called Meryl Tankard, and I moved to Canberra. And, working with Meryl was artistically amazing. It was challenging, and it was but it really helped to find the artist that I became. And, I take great respect to Meryl because of that lineage that she gave me, that skill and that desire to create work that comes from people. It's not about imposing something onto somebody else. It's actually about finding the truth from within, and also using Pina Bausch methodology, where you ask questions of the dancers and they can respond either physically, in drawing, in music, however they like, and then from there you draw create the work that you want to create. I'm just going to put my glasses back on for a sec. Yes, I've done that. So I was absolutely living the dream. I then moved to Australian Dance Theatre, and we toured the world, and it was really fabulous because we went, the UK, the USA, Japan, all around the world. And it was really, I wish I had realised at the time how special that time was. Because then at 30, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So I went from touring the world, about to go and do a presentation with Meryl in New York for Tiffany's, and I was doing ballet, which I was quite good at, and I couldn't feel my calf muscles touching. So, and I never had injuries as a dancer, luckily. And then, but I went to the doctor, and they sort of sent me to somewhere else, and then eventually I ended up in a hospital in Germany. And something's wrong when everyone's talking English, but then all of a sudden they gather in a group and start talking in German, and you just go, and not knowing any German, I thought, I don't think that's a very good sign. And so then I went, okay. But, I think in that moment, your world falls apart. Like, I lost my identity because I lost my career, and I kind of didn't know who I was or who I was going to be. And I always talk about that I had to reinvent myself. So I had to find that strength within to keep going. But at the same time, in 2000, the year 2000, in that era, diversity was not celebrated in any way. And so I felt like there was nowhere for me to go. And so I went behind the scenes very much, and I helped other people realise their artistic dreams, which, very relevant thing to do. But as a person who had acquired disability, I felt like I was invisible and that I wasn't relevant. And that's really hard on your own self-worth and everything like that. So it was a really challenging time. I'm not going to say that it was easy, but, from adversity, you do find other things. And that's what I really value in people, when they find a way forward. And so it's not, it's about how you as a person can move forward and how you can influence society to hopefully make it better for other people as well. I'll just scroll down. I do know my story. I just need to check it. Yes. So after 10 years of not dancing, I had the great pleasure of performing again, and it was a moment where my soul absolutely soared. I didn't practice because I didn't want to know if I couldn't do it, but which don't tell my dancers that because they have to practice. But yes, but when I went on stage and the music started, I kind of forgot about everyone, and I wasn't in a wheelchair. I had my walking stick, but I sat in a chair and I did a dance, and people clapped afterwards, and I was a bit surprised. And you realise the power of words, because the person who I had done the dance for challenged me as to say, "Why don't you dance? Because you're a dancer." And I had all these excuses, and then he went, "No, well, you are a dancer." So at the same time, I had the great fortune that the position at Restless Dance Theatre became available, and I had left the arts for a couple of years, but I thought this will bring together my lived experience of disability, but also my arts experience. And it was really the only company that I was prepared to come back to the arts for, because I could see that there was such value and worth in the company. And it had a history of, we've been around for 33 years now. We actually have an ex-artistic director here in the room, which is Ingrid down there, if you'd like to wave your arms. So, the company has been built on all these other people as well. So it's not, I can't say that, my body of work is just Restless. It's all these people who have contributed, which is really, really important. And what I love at Restless is that we do celebrate each individual, and it's about their thought, their way of looking at the world. And I get inspired every day that I go to work. I laugh, I cry, I do all the emotions in between. And as my mum would say, you know that you're alive when you have all those experiences within that. I would just like to show you a quick clip. I know this is not about Restless, but I just want you to see our dancers in action. So I've got the clicker. Give me a second. Not that I know how to use it. Where'd it go? I'm hoping it's as easy as that.
Title: Restless Dance Theatre. On stage, a performer stands upright as her shadow flops sideways. In a purple-lit bowling alley, a performer bowls. Text: loud, strong, original. A huge face is projected on a stage curtain. Performers and a stage are all black and white. A couple gaze into each other's eyes. Quote: masters of exploring human experience and emotion. Arts Hub. Performers move among tall mirrored prisms. A performer twirls a hologram. Dancers spin on stage and in a laundromat and roll across bowling alley lanes. Performers snuggle cheek to cheek, a glass panel separating them. A chair slides across stage. On various sets and in a range of costumes, performers dance dynamically, exuberantly and sensuously. Quotes: utterly superb performance, Broadway World. Brilliant theatrical ideas, The Australian. Performers on stage and in the audience talk on the phone. A performer huddled in a suitcase opens its lid. A performer rolls on a spinning bed. In a foyer, a bellhop dances with a guest. Quotes: performance that makes the heart sing, in Daily. Extraordinary, innovative, potent, bold and beautiful. 5 stars, Limelight magazine. A glowing bag is snapped shut. A performer grins as he tips a dancer from a chair. Performers move athletically along a corridor, dance fluidly on a landing, grope through blinds, ride furniture and strip off each other's clothes. A performer reaches, then drops. A dancer's duplicated figure falls. Performers collapse, dive and slide. A stage goes dark. Restless Dance Theatre. A screen is filled with 22 logos of sponsors, donors and partners.
I love that. Oh my goodness. And well done to the person who described that, because that was very, very quick. So, so you can see that we're interested in putting people with disability in places where you may not see them, because I believe that having representation across the board is really important. And so we do work, say, in an operating hotel, in a bowling alley, in an art gallery, here in a theatre, but with a different experience for the audience. And I have a theory on how to make work, is one, you bring the audience in, you charm them, then you make them feel really safe, and isn't that lovely? And then there's something in there that will twist the knife a little bit to hopefully make people think and to challenge their own perceptions on who can make art and who should be dancing. Because I think what our dancers bring is this unique individuality and personality, which is really important. That's what excites me, is the different personalities and the different ways of looking at the world. And as I said before, we do this task-based methodology, and what I love is that the responses that you receive are so left field that they are excellent. And I think dance is often about perfection and athleticism, but what I find really interesting is showing vulnerability on stage and showing that that can actually be a strength, that being human and being real is such an important quality, and the dancers at Restless have that in spades, like just a huge amount. And as I said, I find them very, I hate the word inspiring, but they give so much as artists. And at Restless too, I work with amazing people. So I've had the great pleasure of working with Ros Hervey for almost 10 years as my creative producer and dramaturg. And we both have lived experience of disability. And we are also joined by Julie Morley, who is our CEO, and she's been with the company for 5 years. So we're a very strong female-led company. There's, I think, a lot of rigour in how we create work. It's not always easy, and I think you need to have a team around you that support you. And I think part of leadership is that you know your strengths and you know your weaknesses. So I don't have all the answers. So it's about building a team around you that you trust them. It's because they are creating work that's going to support the vision of what we are creating. And I used to always think that was, again, a weakness, that I didn't have all the answers. But in fact, you just realise that, yeah, teamwork and the people around you who are honest and vibrant and passionate is really, really important. Yes, I feel very privileged that I have this team around me to create work. So anyway, I was just also going to say, at Restless, we encourage the dancers to show their true selves and to bring the full humanity to stage. And it's their rawness and vulnerability that makes our performances powerful. And dance isn't about being flawless, it's about being real and sharing this, the messiness and beauty of life. So that's what we aim to do. I'm just going to click forward. What I thought I might also share with you is why, the different work that we make and why. So whenever we create a work, I feel like it's a statement that hopefully will start conversations amongst people. And I think that's what great art does. If you can have a conversation afterwards, unpacking some of the things that you've seen or experienced, that's actually really fabulous thing. If you leave the theatre feeling nothing, then why go? And why? Yes, it's just really important. So for this work, it's we wanted to look at sexuality and disability, and because I know it's it was a fun process, I can tell you. We created a very safe space so that people can talk openly about what their desires are, because we all have desires, whether you have disability or not. And so, we did really. It was quite fun. We had an intimacy coach to make sure that everyone felt safe in that space, and that they had people to talk to if things came up for them. But for example, we had a old school rotary phone and we placed it in the middle of the room. It was hilarious. There was about 5 women. We all sat around this phone, and we said, what question would you ask? If you could ask any question about sex, desire, love, fantasy, what would it be? And, everyone's starting off very safe little conversations, but then it got hilarious, and some of the fun part actually made it into the show. So again, it doesn't have to be, heavy and sad. Like, it can just be a beautiful experience. So that was the reason why we wanted to create work around disability and sexuality. Please come and see it. It's really good. And then we did a work that involved all mirrors. It was a design-led work by Matthew Adey, and Ros had come up with the concept of these mirrored plinths, because I knew I wanted mirrors, and it's like a labyrinth that you walk through, and again, you kind of blur the edges between who is the audience and who are the performers, because I always have this thing about when you look in the mirror, what do you see? As opposed to what do other people see when they look at you? It's that judgment that happens. And it's about, because I know that, I think if people saw me down the street, I've heard people say, get out of the poor woman's way. And you just go, well, actually, I'm not financially that great, but I'm okay, And so, yes, I just wanted to challenge that what do you see and who controls what you see. So it's actually our dancers that control the mirrors to allow the audience to maybe see something or maybe not. And everyone gets a different experience. And so that worked, went to Vivid and in Adelaide. It was a very lighting installation. Exposed was a work that is our in-theatre work. And that was all about, well, it's actually, I had a little run-in with the police, but I did during COVID, and I just found, as a woman in a wheelchair, I was incredibly vulnerable. I was in a situation where I wasn't able to get into my apartment because COVID had closed the gates of the hotel which was next to me, which was a COVID hotel, and I found the policeman would not help me, and I had just left my dying father. I arrived with a huge Samsonite suitcase, picture this, and I arrived in the taxi and I said, oh, I'm usually allowed to just go, not to the gate, but just before, because that's where I live. And he said, no, you can't go there. I said, oh, sorry, I'm a lady in a wheelchair and I need to get into my apartment. He said, well, you can't go, you can't go in there. And I said, and I kept saying, oh, sorry, I'm a lady in a wheelchair with a large suitcase. Nope. And I got very upset. And because all he had to do was radio someone and just say, there's a lady who needs to get into her apartment. That's all it would have taken. But I got very upset. I put the Samsonite between my legs and I had to wheel all the way down to my door while a group of men, of police officers, were just watching me. And I got a little upset by that, and I threw my suitcase onto my lap, tore both rotator cuffs, and it was horrible. And I really felt incredibly vulnerable at that stage, even though I was speaking up, and I don't know what more. I possibly shouldn't have sworn at them as much as I did before I got there, before I went upstairs, because, I don't think many people would get away with pretty much telling off the, 12, 20 police officers there, and crying as well. And then I thought about it later, and I thought all our dancers, we're all vulnerable at times, and do we support each other or don't we? And that's a choice that people can make. And so I put that into a work. I asked the dancers, when do they feel vulnerable or when do they feel safe? And I combined all of that with, again, I have an amazing team of creatives who support the ideas. And then we made it work. So the best revenge is that, it's been on to the Sydney Opera House, it's been to Sundance in Seoul, and that story gets told quite a few times. And I'm still waiting for the apology from the police department, but I don't think that will be coming anytime soon. But it's about also using your lived experience to inform the art that you make. Gutted. So, yes, as I said, I'm just telling you these so that you can see why I make work. Gutted for me was work that we did in a bowling alley, and we put target on the lanes. They ran up and down and everything like that, and we even got the audience to participate. And the hilarious thing is that when the most times when the audience would bowl, they wouldn't get anything. And yet our dancers, by the end, the last show we ever did, Mike got a strike on the last one, And it was just like, yeah. And the reason I wanted to make this work is because when I actually did 2 years where I worked in disability sector. And there was a phrase called the dignity of risk, which I had never heard about. And I found it really fascinating that, and it's really demonstrated in a bowling alley. It's the idea that you need to allow people to fail to then grow. And a lot of people don't want people with disability to fail because, they might get upset. And you're going, what? Everyone has to experience that to grow. And so when you go to a bowling alley, they automatically put up the gutter guards and they give you a rolling thing so that you have to get a pin down. And even when we went into the bowling alley, I had the owners asking me, would I like that set up? And I was going, no. And so again, we like to highlight that we're all human, we're all in this together, and just treat us with respect. So that was the reason that we wanted to go into a bowling alley. And, and a lot of service providers take people bowling for an activity, or they, and I think that's really lazy sometimes because, they just, put people in a bowling alley, make it so that they can't fail, and then go and have a coffee or whatever. I'm not saying all service providers do that, but I'm just saying that it's used quite often. So, I think it really challenged people about, especially when people didn't get strikes because they were so embarrassed. And you just... I had a little giggle. I found it really funny. So I think you create work that's humorous, you create work that touches the heart, and then make something that makes people question their perceptions. Oh, that's me done. No, that's not me. Sorry. But that's who you've got next. So I've just written a few more things here that I'd like to share with you. And the other thing that I love too is seeing people grow and continue on. It's not like I want the dancers just to stay at Restless. I hope that this is a building place for them to then thrive and take their careers elsewhere. And that's been really seen in some of our dancers, like Dan Dorr is now creating his own work and is quite a leader over in the UK. And I know I just went and saw Cost of Living. I'm not sure if anyone else in the room saw Cost of Living. And it was extraordinary as an actor. So it's the building blocks for a lot of people to then go on to other things. And looking to the future, like I think we have a unique role to play. So I'm just reading my notes here. For a more inclusive world, we are slowly moving towards it, but there's still a lot more work to be done. And so we need people to stand up to create work that, hopefully challenges people so that we all experience this together. I know I keep saying that, but I suppose what I think about when I didn't dance for those 2 years is that this feeling of irrelevance is so not on. If I can just be really blunt, I think to celebrate what we all have is a really special thing. And if we can do it together as a group, that's even better. I also have one other little phrase I just would like to share with you, is that I did a radio interview once and I was with Roz in our office, and I came up with this line and we both looked at each other and went, got to remember that one to use again. And I've been using it for years. What I really want audiences to experience is that I want people to expect excellence and not be surprised by it. And that's something that I kind of cringe when people say to me, oh, the dancers are really good. I'm going, yes, they are, because they train 3 days a week from 10 till 5 with Larissa McGowan, who's was Australia's leading dancer, and they are good. And they are artists, and that they should be respected and acknowledged as artists, and not the poor cousin. We're not poor cousins to the other companies, and that's something that I think we push home all the time. I'm just backtracking for one thing too, is we did a work in a operating hotel in 2017, and it went through the whole hotel. There were 20 performers, but we didn't pay people. I know. And so Ros and I had this conversation, and Ros was like, well, if we're presenting on festival stages, we need to start paying people. And I was, absolutely. So we took a hit to the budget quite significantly. We've had to scale down our works we've built it from 6 to 7, and now sometimes we have 8. But our dancers are always paid for rehearsals and performances. And we don't accept any invitations to do things for free. That time has passed. So yeah, yes, and it's been really wonderful to even see the change in some of our dancers' families and their own self-esteem. I love that, Gianna, who's the face, and she's everywhere around Melbourne. So thank you, Alta State. That's amazing. That I just say, oh, look, Gianna, you're on the side of a building. She's going, yeah. So, I love that. I was going to say they're humble, but not all the time, like all of us. But I think celebrating diversity in all its forms is really, really important. And I hope that that's been some insight to why I do things. And I think lovely Caroline's coming back. I completely went off script, can I just tell you?
That applause is for you, not for me to the stage. Let's just be clear about that.
I'm happy to share.
Michelle, thank you so much for sharing some of your insights. And there are so many things that you said that are important. I'm wondering if there's questions in the audience. We have one already. Ooh. Do we have a roving mic? Anna Molnar is going to be the microphone person. Jax.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for an amazing keynote. That was lovely. My name's Jax. My pronouns are they and them. Firstly, I just wanted to say I'm so sorry that happened to you with that police officer. Mm. What a horrible thing. Mm. What an unforgivable thing. Mm. I'm not surprised you haven't got an apology. The police have a lot to answer for. Mm-hmm. I guess my question is around, you spoke about how that happened and, you used it as a catalyst to put it into the work to make a brilliant work, which is what a lot of us disabled artists do, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm interested in using the personal story as a kind of political narrative or a way to create broader change or broader awareness of some of the systemic issues that you've experienced or that the people with disabilities that you work alongside experience, if you could speak to that.
Okay, I think that, drawing on lived experience is a really powerful thing. I think that giving voice to people who are marginalised is really important as well. And if we do that through art, because art is essential in everyone's life, that hopefully someone in the audience can connect with that experience. And I think that's what I'm also really passionate about, is universal themes, because we, again, as I said, we all experience love, loss, hardship, discrimination, and how you can respond to that through art is a powerful way of hopefully making a statement that other people might question, what's happened here and why and what should we do about it. So, I hope that answers your question, but great.
Thanks, Jax. We have another one. Can you introduce yourself and tell us your pronouns?
Hello.
Thanks.
My name's Ash. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm interested in self-care, and I'm just wondering how you look after yourself when you're incorporating when you are addressing your lived experience in work, how do you approach that in a really healthy...
In a healthy way.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure if my honest answer is because, I don't have the best work-life balance, which I think most people, well, it's something that I need to address. And so, and I do have a slightly obsessive personality. But I do have really great friends and family that are around me, and I value them and spending time with them. Also joined a movie club with a whole heap of people I don't know. So, yeah, it's hard because I want to just always focus on what's happening. But yeah, I something I need to get better at.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ash. Other questions? There's a question down the front here. Anna. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lee and I use they, them pronouns. One of the screens that came up looked like it was for a documentary or a film.
Yeah.
Could you talk about that, please?
Yeah, so that first screenshot was of a documentary. It was called Michelle's Story, which was directed by Meryl Tankard. And in the documentary, it sort of followed that journey that I went from dancer to having disability and everything. And that was a beautiful moment. The fellow who I'm photographed with is Vincent Crowley, and he and I danced together for long, long time. And it was in the salt, what do you call it? Salt pans in Adelaide. So I've got a slightly sickled foot. As a dancer, I go, I'm still critical of myself, even though I do think that's a lovely photograph because, it's about trust. Because I was in a wheelchair at the time, so, which I still am, but I had to trust Vincent not to drop me or to, because I'm not very stable on my legs. And so, it's a documentary that follows all the ups and downs of life, because, there are a few in there, so.
We have time for one more question, if there's another question in the room.
It's a tough one to follow. So I'm sure a lot of people here are grappling with that notion, transitioning from 20 what might be considered volunteer or community performers into a world where we are paying people. I think there's a lot of anxiety that comes up for people around that, like, are we denying people their chance to be involved in this way?
Yep.
What are the impacts on scale? Do people miss the larger scale pieces? All these things.
Yep.
Do you have any wisdoms for us?
I think you can do both, because we have a very extensive workshop program. And so our the people who are coming from 8 to 8 to 65 are still involved, and we still do performances to include everyone and to build, I feel very privileged that I then get to choose the people who I think, have something really special that they can have a career pathway in the arts. So I think there's ways of doing both. Yes, you just need a few hats you have to wear and a few amazing people around you. And yes, I think the big scale works are still great, but yeah, we do have another very big work in Train. But again, we're fighting to find the funding to make people pay, make sure people are paid.
Thank you. Can you tell us who you are? Sorry, you didn't tell us who you are.
Sorry, Kane, he, him.
Great, thanks, Kane. I'm sure there are many other questions in the room. There was one down the front. I have many questions, but we are sort of out of time. I actually want to invite your question, lovely person at the front here, Anna. If you're still floating around, that would be great. And one over here? Great. Okay, we'll come to you in 1 sec. Is this okay, Michelle? Are you happy?
Yeah, I'm happy.
Great.
If you're happy, I'm fine.
Hi. MJ, pronouns are they, them, or Miss Fourier, if you were at the performances last night. Super inspired by everything that you're doing, especially as a disabled performer as well that does a lot of physical performance. Often told, how could you possibly be disabled if you can physically perform? Mm-hmm. So it's very inspiring to see all the different forms of disability doing all the different forms of art. I guess my question is, I'm also a producer and I do a lot of I would say, too much labour, putting on shows for people like me and organising productions for people like me, and it comes with a lot of lack of being offered spaces where I actually belong, or spaces being available where I belong. And I guess my question is, how do you kind of break through to be able to do what you want to do the way that you want to do it, and like progress your career and have like an upward trajectory when you feel like it's only available if you do the work or you provide the space? Like, how do you find, avenues and things like that, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I feel like...
No, it's a huge question.
It's a big question. I'm just like, I'm not quite sure about that.
And there's no direct answer, I know.
Yeah, no, I think there's... I know that I often do mentoring for people, and I think that's, as a person who is in their early-ish 50s, I think that's also a responsibility that, as for people who do have the experience to mentor people. But yeah, unfortunately, you do the hard work. Yeah, it's hard work. I'm not quite sure what more I can say, but I just think as a society, if we can start acknowledging, everyone in that space, in our space, that that's a way forward. I mean, there are. I know at Restless, because we are lucky that we have our own studio, we have a spare studio. I also feel like it's our responsibility to share that with the broader community. So we do have for example, a program where we offer our space for free, so that artists don't have to pay. But we do prioritise people with disability, because there's not many spaces that are actually accessible.
Yeah.
And I think, so I'm happy to have a chat if there's other things that I can do. But sorry, I don't have the golden solution for that one. Yeah, make the change. Yeah. And just being there, being present, yeah. Like, I don't know about you, Carolina, but, I do get wheeled out every now and then.
Oh,
but,
completely.
Yeah. And
I have a saying, though.
What was that?
That I sell my soul to the devil, but I do it on my terms.
Absolutely. So that's what I was going to say.
I charge people a lot of money.
Yeah.
If they want to wheel me out, it's like, great, I'll do that.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that thing, you choose when you do it and when you don't.
Yeah.
And even if it's not money, I'd love to get money, but no. Even if it's not money, it's if you can, even just being present and people realising, oh my God, she can't get into that place.
Yeah.
Or that one step is a step, So it's, and I believe that there's two ways of doing things. You've got the people who go hardcore, which is, we absolutely need that in the disability sector. And then you've got the other ones, which I think, I try and manoeuvre. I try and charm people, and not me, not very good at it, but not make people, I don't yell at people or get angry. I just sit there and just go, okay, what's the solution here? So, yeah.
We have one more question from the fabulous Joe Montaloni over here.
Hi everybody, my name is Joe. I have Usher syndrome, type 1. My pronouns are he, him. Just on observation, thank you so much for your story, Michelle. On observation on that scream, I've forgotten the actual name of the film, but I did ask the interpreter who's voicing at the moment, Mark. This particular silhouette on the screen looks like John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. That's what it looks like to me. Just that.
Can I quote that?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so well done. It looks like you're a famous singer up there.
Amazing.
Yeah, it looks very similar to Grease.
You don't want to give me a microphone that's handheld, because I will try and sing and I'm not very good.
I would just like to say a huge thank you to you for sharing with us. Oh, you've got one more question? Sure. I'm going to lose my job as an MC because I'm doing such a bad job of it. These guys have come all the way from Brisbane, so come on, we need to support the Brisbaneites. Thanks, Simon.
Hi, I love your work. You're amazing. One of my questions is, how did you accept your disability when you became disabled? And how did you help other people in your company accept this?
Yeah, okay. So, yes, when I acquired disability, I was very, very upset, very, I don't know if I ever got to the angry stage, but I sort of never thought that there was any other option than to go on. I think some people might have thought I was going to disappear, but actually when I did dance again, it really gave me a fire in my belly about I don't want any other artist to feel irrelevant or, like I did for 10 years. And so I got a fire in my belly and I just went, actually, this is who I am, like it or not, or die, and I don't really care. But and the interesting thing with my dancers, which I love, is when you interview some of our dancers and you say something about their disability, they sort of go, "What?" So I think that's a combination of their families, of themselves, but they're people. So
And that's because of that environment that you create.
Yeah.
They just feel valued and valuable in that space. Michelle, thank you for sharing with us so generously. It's amazing. I'm just going to plug it again. Go and see Private View. It's on tonight, tomorrow night and Saturday, and I think there's a matinee Sunday even.
Yeah, 5 o'clock Sunday.
Yep. So get a ticket, go and see it.
And Jen, thank you to Alter State for inviting me here and for presenting Private View. I think it's really great.
It's brilliant. Thank you, Michelle.